Hey everyone, I'm going to do a quick workout with some Yamuna balls. These are the Pro Ball and the 2 black balls, and this is my general body tone-up that I do. Right now for me it's the middle of the day, so I'm just going to see if I can work out some of the kinks from sitting and working at my desk. So I always start by working on the glutes, and I'm going to use the Pro Ball for most of this. Sitting on my sit bone. That's the bone you can feel right through your glutes. I'll extend the leg that I'm working on, and I can roll myself forward and back. When I roll this direction, I'm going to get into the hamstring. I'm going to do that 3 times right in the middle. And then I'm going to repeat that, and I'm going to come more to the inside. So same motion. When I get into the tendon, it's always pretty tight, so I'd like to hold there for just a minute. And then I'll finish up by moving to the outside. So I'm on the glute the entire time here, just working different parts of these muscles. You might notice one side, one section feels a little tighter. And then I'll come right back to center. And I'm going to go side to side. Sometimes when I'm doing this, I roll out an entire side and then move sides. I'm going to again come to resting on the sit bone, extending the leg I'm working on, rolling back and forward into the tendon. And I've got this other leg bent to support me. I've got my hands on the mat. And then I'll come to the inside. So definitely when you're doing this, my hair is up. I don't have loose clothing on. You don't want to have anything on that's going to get caught as you roll. I'm here to relieve tension, not to create tension. And then again, moving to the outside. And this for me is always, seems to be the tightest when I get into that outside. And there we go. So now I'm going to roll down the middle of my hamstring. Starting just like I did before, coming into that tendon, keeping that leg extended. I could point and flex my toes. That's going to increase the intensity. Just taking a few breaths each time I stop. And then maybe coming a third of the way down. Now I can turn this leg out to the side, and I can use one of these black balls to sit on. It's going to help stabilize me. I like to fold forward. That just gives me a increased stretch. And rolling some about halfway down. Again, pointing and flexing if I want. Sometimes I like to bring my head down to my knee. And about 2/3 of the way to the knee. So still in the muscle. Always checking in, noticing that I'm able to breathe pretty easily here. And then I like to bring that ball right into the knee joint. I'm going to take both hands, one on either side of the joint, and I'm pressing down. It's like I'm pulling that joint in 2 different directions, gently, of course. Breathing into this, I remove that black ball. I'm no longer sitting on that. And then coming back up to sitting, I am going to roll the inside before I move to the opposite side. So as you notice, I roll up and down on the mat, and I do need to keep readjusting myself. So think of bringing that pearl ball more towards the inside now. I've got my opposite leg bent to support myself. I've got the black ball here to come underneath my hip. That just gives me a little more support so I'm not sitting back. When I sit back, I lose some of the stretch. And again, just rolling down. For me, it's 1/3, 1/2, 2/3. This time I will not put it underneath the knee. I'm just going to roll down the inside. Oh, and there we go. And you'll start to notice there's definitely parts that are tighter. For me, it is the inner thighs that are tighter than the rest of the body. Don't know why. That's just my unique, wonderful gift with this body. And then coming on to the opposite side. So I'm going to again start sitting on my sit bone, bringing that leg forward. I've got this ball ready to go. And I roll right into that tendon to start. Taking a few breaths here. And you'll notice, okay, I've had enough stretch, or that feels like I need a little more stretch. You can always stay there for a little bit. And then as I'm ready, I'm going to roll back, come maybe 1/3 of the way down, remembering I could point and flex. As I said, sometimes I like to come forward. Coming forward typically intensifies the stretch for me. And then more to the middle, reaching into this. Allowing myself to sink down. And one more. Adjusting that back ball if needed. You may also notice the stretch feels different, one leg, one side to the other. And as I'm ready, I'm going to move that ball underneath my knee, taking again both hands, one on either side. Just giving my knee joint a little stretch there. And as I release and come up, I'm going to finish by finding the inner muscles on this leg. Opposite leg is bent back, coming into that tendon to start. Always exploring and just being curious what needs to be rolled, what needs to be worked out on this side. And then as I'm ready, coming about 1/3 of the way. And then half. And then 2/3. And as I'm ready, coming off these two balls, I'm going to work both the inner thighs and the outer thighs now. So using the pearl ball, and I'll start by resting it right on top of my pubic bone. And I'm going to let one of my legs come out to the side. That knee is going to be bent at a 90-degree angle. And then as I'm ready, I'm going to roll right into that muscle. Breathing here. Just like we did on the thighs, we'll first come into the tendon, and then I'm going to move that slightly 1/3. Maybe 1/2. And then 2/3. So I'm almost all the way down. And wow, for me, this is super edgy when I get to this point. Making sure I can breathe. And let's go ahead and release. Back to the pubic bone. Second side, here we go. So this time I'm gonna roll right into that tendon on this side. And then coming into 1/3. So the inner thighs for me are just a different kind of experience. The sensations are much stronger here than they are on the backs of my legs or on the fronts, frankly. And then 1/2. So sometimes when we get a really intense sensation, our temptation is to run away from it. That's pretty normal feeling. Just stay with it if you can. And then right to that 1/3. So you're right before the knee there. And go ahead and let that go. Let's find our way onto the side. So I'm going to start by bringing this ball underneath my hip. And I do this differently side to side. When I do this side, I actually have straight arms. On the opposite side, I'll put my forearms down. Those are both options. This forearms down is much more accessible for me on the other side. So again, I'm going to roll, just coming right into that spot where the tendon starts. This is the IT band. For some of you, this is going to be pretty tight. And then maybe coming 1/3. If you're using straight arms, think of keeping that spine straight and that chest lifted. Coming halfway. And just one more, almost all the way down to the knee. You can see I've got my legs split so that I have the balance here. And then release. And we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. It's going to look completely different. Bringing that ball underneath my hip. And as I said, on this side, I keep the elbows down. So I take a moment here, just easing into this. And I'm going to move into the tendon. So you can see it's the same positions, the same kind of movement. The only difference is the arms. And coming 1/3 down. One half of the way. And then 2/3. So you're almost completely down. A little harder to do with the elbows down. And roll off that ball and come up. We've done the backs, the sides, the insides. Let's do the fronts of the legs. This time as I get started, I'm going to bring the pearl ball onto the hip bone. This one I've definitely got my elbows down. And the top of my body will probably go out of frame here, but you'll be able to see my legs. I'm going to roll forward right into that tendon. This one, if I like, I could bring my foot up and down. And then 1/3. Up and down if you want. One half. Up and down. And then 2/3. Up and down. And coming on to the second side. Starting at the hip bone. If I'm not filming, sometimes I just flip directions on the mat. Take a breath here. And then come into the tendon. Maybe we want to go up and down with the leg. One-third. Up and down. Up and down may intensify the stretch, it may not. Halfway. Up and down. And 2/3. Up and down. And again, just noticing this is pretty tight for me right here. And then coming off the ball, put that pro ball off to the side for just a moment. Pick up the 2 black balls, place them underneath the knees. A little tricky, balance into this. Sit back if you can. And then scoot yourself forward. So we're just going to move all the way down the front of the calves using these balls. Some places it's going to feel pretty edgy, some places it's not going to feel like anything at all. For me, it's much edgier as I get closer to my feet. And there's going to be a point where my knees are going to come down. Just letting those balls press right into the bones, the tibia. And when you can, it's going to come, mine are right above the ankles here. I'm going to move them with my hands, so I'm going to move them into the ankles right there. Once I move them, I'll come back to sitting upright. Move them past the ankles to the top of the feet. Right into the middle of the feet. And then all the way towards the toes. Maybe lean back, stretch the feet. Come to center. Come off those balls. Standing up tall, we're going to take one ball and place it behind each knee. And then again, sitting back. So I worked the front of the calves, now I'm working the back of the calves. I'm letting those balls come down just a little. And I am working to sit hips to heels. I'll get there eventually. No worries if your body doesn't quite want you to do that. Again, roll them down. I would say mine now are right at the bottom of the gastrocnemius, right where the Achilles tendon starts. And then as we come down, definitely getting into the Achilles tendon now. Everybody's legs are different. For some of you, it might be easier to sit back. For me, it's not. When I do this, I have to stay sitting upright a little bit. I'm gonna bring them now. They are right before my heels. So some folks stop right here. I like to put them on my heels and then even on the sole of the feet and just lean back. But there's a point where you can't keep them anymore because they've gotten past the rest of your body. So here, right onto the heels, sitting back into this. And then last position for me, just past the heels, they're in the arch of my foot, and here I do lean back. Back to center. Last thing we're gonna do, so brand new legs, right? We've rolled the legs top to bottom, inside, outside, everything, front, back. We're going to work with the pearl ball and we're going to roll up the spine. So I start with this ball right behind my sacrum, leaning back, knees are bent, feet are planted. I'm using my core, I'm engaging my core to keep the ball on the mat. Taking a moment and breathing here. And this one I do want to roll, so I'm actually going to stop for a minute and move myself farther up the mat. Doesn't matter where you are, but I'm going to roll right out of the field of view here. So I'll start here. There we go, that's better. And then as I'm ready, I'll lift my hips, roll forward just a touch. So this is how you always want to end a Yamuna routine, is to roll up the spine. This is one way to do it. There's many ways to do it. That's how I'm doing it today. This is how I like to do it. And then again, roll. Still using that engagement, so think of belly to back, back to ball. I am engaging my core to keep this ball from rolling away. It's going to get really hard when it gets up here for me. And lift and roll. This is where if you have loose clothing, they're going to get caught. Loose hair, it's going to get caught. If your neck starts to bother you, you bring your hands, one or both hands behind the head. Lift and roll. Breathing here. Staying nice and open on the front body. And again, lift and roll. And just inching up, maybe 1-2 inches at a time. Takes me a while to get to the top. When I get to my neck, I do work there for a little bit. My neck is always in need of a little extra tension. It's pretty tight. And then roll. Now I am right in between my shoulder blades. So this is where for me I really start to focus on keeping control of that ball. It gets harder for me as I roll through this part. I definitely want to have my hands on my head. My neck starts to get a little tired. Lift and roll. Just at the top of the shoulder blades here, pressing down into the ball. Keeping my chest nice and open. Lift and roll. Now I've got the back of my head on the ball. And let my hands go. Still a few more positions to work through. This time as I lift and roll, I'm letting that ball come right into my occiput, so right underneath the skull, and I'm pushing myself back. So this for me is often where it can feel pretty good to work here for a while, getting into those tight muscles. can roll up the back pretty quickly, but when I get to this, it's like, ooh, let's just stay here. Let's just relax. Get rid of some of that tension. And then one more. Now I've got my chin to my chest. The ball's rolled a little bit more up into the back of my head. This spot feels pretty good too, but the magic sauce for me is that last one. To come out of this, I'm going to take one hand, completely support my head, roll the ball out, roll the head down, take a moment and relax. And when I'm ready, I'll come on to one side. You can definitely stay down longer than I did there. So that's my little tune-up. It's my midday tune-up. Brand new legs, brand new spine to continue with my day. Are you interested? Check it out. This is actually something I teach. I do this as private lessons. This is the first time I've done a video for my YouTube channel, but if you like it, I'll do more. All right, everybody. Bye-bye. Feel good.